You're tuned into the show
that informs, improves, and inspires racers everywhere.
The Northwest Race Report. The Northwest Race Report is brought to you by O'Hagan's Kart Supply, Lebanon, Oregon. You want to win? O'Hagan's wants to help. And by True Tech Automotive, Hazeldale, Washington. Get your car, truck, or tow rig repaired the right way, the True Tech way. And by Scott Seal Coat and Striping, Federal Way. For over 25 years, whether you're sealing or striping, you can count on Scott. And by Southern Oregon's karting headquarters, Speed City LLC, keeping racers on track with quality support and friendship. You're tuned into the Northwest Race Report exclusively at terrybridges.com. And now back to your horsepower and performance hosts, Terry Bridges and Glenn Lippy Tower. Oh, what is going on, racers? Another edition of the Northwest Race Report. I am your horsepower and performance host, Terry Bridges. And sitting in with me is Mr. Glenn Lippy Tower. What's going on, Lip?
It's all good in the hood tonight.
And the loader, Mr. Jeff Eden. What's going on, buddy?
Very tired, very tired.
How come?
11 and a half hours today, 11 hours yesterday, and 10 and a half on Monday.
Seriously?
Seriously. It's that time of year.
Are you white or blue? Oh, okay.
White.
Now, there we go. Welcome, everybody. First and foremost, who is P1, Mr. Lip? Let me get...
I got nothing on my end.
There we go. Let's see. Who is it? It was Brent Meyer, P1.
Oh, he even called it.
Dan Watkins, Jason Suchich, Sean Carr, 4th, Rusty King, 5th, the Kravitron, Dan Kravitz, Ronnie Cox. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. King is 5. Kravitz is 6. Cox is 7th.
Is there anybody giving us any feedback? Because I'm not getting anything.
Kelso, 8th. Chisholm, 9th. Vickers, 10th. Ronnie Swyers, 11th. But he's out.
Ronnie says it's rigged.
So is anybody giving us any feedback? Because I got nothing so far.
Well, yeah, I got, right here. We got, let's see.
I know they're commenting.
I hit the refresh at least 20 times, LOL. 11. That's it, Jeff? So, yeah. Yellow, what's up, Chizzy? Good to see you back on here, man. I wondered where you disappeared to. He's been a busy camper. So what's going on? The week's been kind of crazy for you or what? Mr. Jeff?
Yes, it is. We're hitting into the busy time of the year, and it's like, oh my gosh, it's not quite used to it all the way, but I will.
Oh, yeah. Well, here's what I want to do, first of all. Last week, those of you that were here, we talked a little bit about the 9 cars that were at Yakima for the Apple Cup. And we did some talking and comparing and whatnot, so on and so forth. And I got some feedback, some of which said that maybe we were a little bit too negative and didn't put racing in a good light. And so I just kind of wanted to address that. So hopefully people know where we're coming from. First and foremost, probably when we used names, we probably went over the line a little bit. That's never a good thing. Probably shouldn't do that, and for that I apologize. But on the other hand, this show isn't. I don't want it to be a yes show, where you don't ask the tough questions. I want to be able to ask those. So for that, I'm not going to apologize. I'm going to say that that's what we do here. We're not beating anybody up. And we certainly didn't put racing in a bad light. I mean, we didn't do it. It was already there. And so for more than that, it was like, okay, so 51 years of the Apple Cup, and we're looking at 9 cars. That's just not right. And I think some questions needed to be asked. So if we seemed negative, I apologize for that, because that's not what this show is about. anybody that knows this show, that listens to this show, knows that we try to keep it positive. However, that being said, I'm not going to apologize for asking tough questions because sometimes they need to be asked. And I don't want this show to just be to sweep stuff under the rug. I mean, we're not going to beat anybody up or try to call anybody out, but if the tough question needs to get asked, I think that's what we're here for. And certainly for you, too, I mean, to try to get some knowledge. So I want to apologize to anybody that thought that maybe we were a little bit on the negative side, because that's not what the intent was. The intent was to say, hey, look, what is going on? And how does this happen? I mean, even, common sense tells you it shouldn't happen, but it does, and we're just trying to get to the bottom of it. So, but I do know if we're going to say stuff, we should have solutions. I think that's, Lippy, don't you agree with that to some degree? It's kind of like voting. If you don't vote, you can't bitch, and so on and so forth.
Right. I agree 100%. Having said that, I don't know what we could do to change the outcome of that, other than hopefully bring light to something that's not getting enough attention. So other than that, I don't have an answer that will make that show any better than the 11 cars that showed up, and some of those came out of the trailer and were backup cars. Right.
And I will sit here and I will vouch that Jeff Eden is not a negative guy. He's a good guy. He's got some opinions like we all do and whatnot. So consider it passion, not necessarily negativity, because at the end of the day, he's for the racer just like any of us. And so there you have it. Jeff, you got anything you want to? I mean, I don't know.
If I offended anybody,
yeah,
I'm apologizing, because I actually got a little wound up last week. I will admit it. I probably went overboard. Maybe I did. Maybe I listened back to it. Maybe.
Yeah, man, I got you. But it's passion that you're talking. So,
but I don't want anything negative to the. It's not to the racer. I just want to see the sport grow. And some things that are happening aren't letting the sport grow.
Right. And,
so, that's all my deal.
You're a drag racer. You know it well. You lived it. You know it inside out, upside down, and you've seen it kind of go to pot. So, hey, more power to you. But anyway, I wanted to address that first and foremost because we do listen to your feedback, and I want everybody to know that we do. That's how we get better. That's how we learn. That's how we improve. That's how we all do it. So, again, we're Northwest Race Report, BLG. We are all about keeping it positive and keeping it real, but we are still going to ask the tough questions. So, that being said, I've got some quick info here before we go to results. We had the the Easter Egg 100 at Evergreen. We had the season opener at Wenatchee. The loader was down at South Sound, and Lippy was working all weekend.
Yeah, for sure.
But just so let you know that this is not negative. This is just facts, and it's not just a Northwest issue. It's all over. The season opener at Eldora. If you go to Dirt Unlimited, you can check it out. But I was just looking through there, and it said poor car counts at Eldora. Typically, they have between 30 and 40 mods. There was 18, 15 late models, and 19 Eldora stock cars. Those numbers are way down. It says it used to be able to run almost a full season worth of races at Eldora. New modifieds are lucky now to get 10 events, 3 of which are on that one weekend, the big the Fall Nationals when they come to Eldora. And so here are the problems that I picked out of there. The problems were multiple rule changes by the sanctioning body and by the racetrack. They were safety stuff, but still they were fairly big. Ump licenses. To run in any ump event, you've got to have a license. and that can cost over $100. So they weren't too thrilled about that. And the other problem was it just appeared that Eldora wasn't being flexible by leaving it up to the racers to just figure it out and figure a way to do it. Because sometimes when it comes out late like that and kind of a surprise, you don't have the means or the funds or you hadn't planned for it or whatever. So here's what transpired. The drivers and teams have voiced their thoughts and opinions on social media, and they even tried contacting the track, asking them to reconsider and try to, move up or move back the time frame and give them 2017 to kind of get the funds necessary. Give us a year to comply to these rules. Most of which, like I said, they were safety and driver related. The biggest deal was the steel plates on the door. They want, the cages, all the openings to have the steel plates in there. Well, you can't just weld those in. Those cars got to go back in a jig, and you start welding that plate on there, 3/16 or whatever it is, all on the door bar. You're it's gonna. So that's what some of the drivers were saying. It needs to go back in a jig. A lot of the chassis manufacturers were saying this thing's got to go back in a jig. Eldora said, figure it out. That's the rule. So with that, guys like Scotty Williams, do you know Scotty Williams? Modified guy. Been there for decades. I guess he's a household name back there, but he's not running. A lot of guys aren't running because if they did comply with the rules, that's about the only place they could run because they're going to be in a disadvantage everywhere else because the rules aren't the same. But he did say they need to pay more weekly. They need to add more races because 10 isn't enough to show that they really care. And a lot of times they feel like they're not wanted there. So I don't know. You bring 40 cars or 30 cars or have been, and you get treated like you don't belong there. That's never a good thing. And again, if they do all the rule changes, they'd be at a disadvantage because that's the only place they run. They did reach out to Eldora, but they didn't respond. So there you have it. It's going on all over the country. So it's not just us asking the big questions. It's I think that's happening everywhere. So that's what we have to reconsider. I think the biggest thing is the racers are your customer. You got to take care of them.
Well, the thing of it is too, and some of this stuff it needs to have a racer input.
I agree with that
you
too.
come to a rules meeting, you sit down, and you go over the package, and then you talk about this is what I would like to implement. What do you think the possibilities are when you start into more of the demand thing?
Mm-hmm.
It costs you. I don't care. It costs you in anything you do. You start demanding. There's a certain amount of people aren't going to just
roll over.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, Claire used to be like that. Remember? He was like. He thought he owned all of us, right? If you went to another racetrack, you got punished for it dearly.
Oh, yeah.
It might even be something as bad as, he'd make it a double points event because he, knew a bunch of guys weren't going to be there. So
I remember that when he told Mike Shank, "Now, Mike, I don't like my cars running over it."
Exactly.
Like, hold it, time out.
But yeah, he rained out, so everybody loaded up and went down to the Grove. So, the key is, I don't think the answer is rocket science.
Communication.
Take care of those that take care of you. That's what you do. And the Northwest Ford Focus Midget Series is a prime example of the promoters taking care of those that take care of them. And that series is huge. It's growing. You heard Shane Smith last week. A lot of exciting stuff going on there. That's a great series. So, Lip, you're pretty quiet over there.
I'm struggling with my phone this evening. It's just not working whatsoever. I still can't.
That's why I turned the screen around so you could see.
I'm level with it. I don't see nothing. So
really?
Yeah.
What do you mean you're level with it?
Too short.
Oh.
Well, then you're not going to be able to see it. So it's just.
It's all right. We'll it's better that than have you not involved, right?
I'm just not getting anything here, so I don't get it.
fine.
Well, turn it off and
I
back
know,
on
I
again.
can see yours working, but mine's just not. It's not doing anything.
Probably got a cash problem. So anyway, guys and gals, appreciate you being on the show tonight. We got Ronnie Swyers is down in Utah, I believe, and so it's tough for him to get the recording because he's down there working. So he's going to join us live for the Product 41 driving tip of the week. So stay tuned for that coming up at about the 7:30 hour. The Loader's got some stuff on tech that he's going to yak at you about. Lippy's got, I don't know what Lippy's got.
Lippy's got the Pulse of Karting today.
Nice.
Yes.
Very, 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 very nice.
I'm very excited about some of the stuff I've been seeing, so I'm gonna elaborate on that.
Good deal.
Ronnie says you're 2 laps down.
I am 2 laps down. I'm trying to make this thing work, and it's frustrating.
Well,
me.
let's go take a look at the results. We had some cool stuff this weekend, so hang tight. If you're serious about racing, you're constantly looking for an edge. A tenth here, a pound there. It's a nonstop pursuit to find a quicker way around the racetrack. See High Performance believes to beat the racetrack, you must become the racetrack. And that is the thought process behind all of their innovative speed products. From their line of Superfly bodies and wings to the latest dual disc center vane Super Brake, it's all about finding a quicker way around the racetrack. With 45 years of innovation, See High Performance is dedicated to helping racers of all skill levels find an edge. Whether it's horsepower tuning, chassis dialing, or tire science, it's their commitment to innovation that sets them apart from the rest. Innovation is not what is, it's always been about what can be. So be all you can be with the integrity, innovation, and inspiration of C High Performance. Shop online 24/7 at chighperformance.com. Oh, baby. Chris, see, I hope you're tuned in tonight. I don't see you on the show, but hope things are going well for you. They're great folks back there at C High Performance. Did you see the ad they had? They had some Blem Superfly noses
I did
for
see
sale.
that.
So make sure you get in there and get a good deal on some of the
And believe me, a Blem, you're going to be looking for it. They're very critical of what they send out as being a number one. So if you order a Blem from them, it's not going to be something that's all warped up and looking ugly. They throw that stuff away. The Blems that they send out are something you're really going to be searching for to try and figure it out.
and it might not even, you're going, that's a Blem, right?
Exactly.
Wenatchee. How many have been there?
I've
The
driven
Super
by.
Oval.
I drove by it.
Pretty cool. Garrett Evans done a lot of work on that racetrack.
Could be there in 2 weeks.
I think I remember telling he spent close to $1 million of his own money in that thing to get her dialed in. So
Wow.
over the years, but and some of it's just little bits and pieces from racetracks that he's been over the country, Concord, and everywhere he's been, and he's been quite a few places. But yeah, they had their season opener up there. The Northwest Outlaw Mini Stock Series opened up there, which is cool. Some of you may have remembered the interviews we did with some of them, and I still have some more. It's just trying to catch up and get with those guys. But Casey Garber won the mini stocks. Justin Childress was second. Jeff Hector. I don't know who was third. Jeff Hector was fourth. They had a question mark there, so I'm assuming somebody didn't have a transponder. Brad Rhodes, outstanding wheelman, was fifth, and Landon Edwards. You remember we talked to him. Picked up that new sponsor in the VWE. So way to go, Landon Edwards. Yeah, he was sixth. Let's see. Let's go here. Roadrunners. The winner? Question mark. I don't know. They must have hand scored him and said it's okay. You don't have your transponder. I don't know. So
They may not have transponders on.
well, they had all the rest of them showed up. If you're on my lap, you gotta have one. So Dale Rinenberg was second, though. I do know that. I don't know who the winner of the Roadrunners. Anybody was there? Let me know, and we'll pass it along. And let's see here. Troy Jacobson was third, and Shaylin Davis was fourth. Thundercars, Trevor Flora. How many guys know or remember Chuck Flora? He was one of the standouts, open comp, pavement stuff. He was super fast. Chuck Flora was. I'm assuming it's relation. Wouldn't you guess? A name like Flora around in the Northwest,
Yeah,
probably.
you would think so.
He won it. Gerald Nash, Mike Hill, Cody Graham, and Nick Bellamy finished up the Thunder Cars. Let's see. And then we move on to the late models. Brian Getz wins it. Dan Garber second. I think Dan Garber is the brother of Sherry Garber, who is the new Northwest Super Late Model Series PR director. So big shout out to Sherry Garber, formerly of Speed 51. Still may be, but I don't know if she's still doing that. Mike Knutson was third. You remember them, Lip. They're the ones that, remember the car caught on fire in the pits overnight?
Oh, yeah.
And they lost their whole...
Mm-hmm.
Imagine that. You know, you go home and you come back and it's burnt to a crisp. There was nothing left. They lost it all. They had to start over, basically. So they made it. They got rewarded pretty good. Third. Alex Ludeman, fourth. Riker Agnew, fifth. That was what was going on down at, or up at, in the banana belt of big old Wenatchee Valley. Cool town. I could live there. Easter Egg 100. That's kind of a sweet name for a late model main event on Easter, isn't it?
I would think so, yeah.
Or would it be better a Easter Egg Hunt 100? Nah, I don't know.
Man.
It was Easter anyway. They got something in there. Hornets went to Toby Jenkins, Dawson Cox, and Nick Beecher. Your top three. Lane Sunholm, Brad Thomas, and Brian Cottrell, mini stocks. Pro 4 Trucks, Matt Green, Shane Green, and no, not Mike Michelson, but Nick Nicholson. Did you get that?
Mm-hmm.
Or did it go?
Nope.
Let's see here. Figure eights. This guy is tough. I don't know how many races he's won, but he's won a ton. Quentin Morrison wins it. Tony Hill, former Dallas Cowboy wide receiver. No, I don't think so. And Doug Deifel was third. Let's see. Youth Hornets, Tyson Lang. Who have I got here? Oh, Ryan Clark. And I can't even read my own writing.
Not unusual.
It is because I'm always in a hurry, right? It is Jason Reich. So great job to the Youth Hornets and the late models for the Easter Egg 100. Jeff Knight, the racing pastor, wins it. You knew he was a pastor?
No, I did not.
He is a pastor of a pretty good congregation. Nama Lang, second. Trenton Moriarty, third. Chad Fitzpatrick, and the son of one of the finest Northwest tour drivers, Pedro Harding. Shane Harding was fifth. So, good stuff at Evergreen. Chris Cunningham isn't there anymore. It's a shame, but I don't know what happened, but anyway, that's what happened over east in the Banana Belt and up north in the Wet Belt, but they got it in. I'm kind of surprised, actually.
Mm-hmm.
But, and then you were down at
South
Tenino,
Sound.
the Tenino Teacup.
I tell you what, it was nice. Sitting in a T-shirt till the sun went down.
Yeah, I'll bet. Yeah, it was pretty nice on Saturday.
They had super late models there, and Bob Presley won
No
it.
surprise.
No surprise, won it.
Why haven't I heard more about him?
Basically, just South Sound runner.
Really?
And then Tristan Hyder.
You're kidding.
Number 2. Very first race in his late model, and that was the first day he had been in his late model. He didn't even get a practice on Thursday. So,
Wow.
very, very impressed with the young man. And Kurt Meyer was third. What kind of got me was I was looking back through the lap times on the deal, and Bob Presley's fast time was a 14:08, and his slow time was a 15:11. Tristan did not have one lap in the 100 laps that was in the 15-second range. Everything he ran was in the 14s.
Wow.
Hiders?
Yes, every lap.
Wow.
And then Kurt Meyer actually had the fastest lap during he ran a 14:01. It's kind of funny. I went over and walked over and talked to him a little bit afterwards, and he kind of gave Kurt Meyer a little nudge there to get him out of his way. He said, "Yeah." He said, "I kind of had to use the chrome horn there for a second." He said he wasn't moving, so I moved him over. And once he moved him over, he just took off. It was they had a yellow flag with 10 laps to go, and they put him right with Presley, and he stayed with Bob for about 4 or 5 laps, and then Bob just kind of started walking on him. But Bob knew he was there. Bob was very impressed, and Bob's been around there for a long time, so
Knows his way around.
yeah, he knows his way around that track. He's kind of like what was the one from up north here, Ron,
Eaton?
Yeah.
Yeah, how many times they,
Yep.
that's about they've been around the track about the same amount of times.
Yeah, a bazillion.
Yeah.
The hobby stocks went to Brendan Fisher, Tony Glenn was second, and Brandon Wilson was third. The Legends, another great race. They were shorter of
How many did they have?
They had 14.
Wow.
The week before there was some of them been over it,
Right.
and then
Yakima.
like Tristan's cousin was Tristan's spotter, so he didn't race his Legend, so it was kind of, they were kind of short on that. But Rick McNeil was number 1. Devin West was 2.
Who?
Devin West.
Are you going to get that hooked up?
Oh yeah, we're just they've been into the busy mode now. They're in. We'll get it.
Okay.
And then Randy Bedlow was third. Devin was actually headed to the front. A guy went into the infield, come out of the infield, brought water. You could see the rooster tails come off the tire.
Right.
Right in turn.
Boom.
Right coming out of turn 4, and he spun, went to the back of the pack, and you could see the young man was on a mission. He came to the front and in a hurry.
Wow.
So he a great drive for him. He was, and then they had the Westco wing sprint cars there, and there was 11 or 12 of them.
That's I'm gonna assume that's a good turnout for them, being as though the little bit of trauma that they've gone through over the last between the offseason into last year, which they were gaining leaps and bounds. I think they had 30 cars.
Yeah, there was it was a good show. I mean, but there was like 1, 2, 3, 4. There was 5 of them were actually all out of Olympia.
Wow.
So,
well, now do you know if they changed? Because there was some rule they weren't going to allow the restricted 360s to run in that anymore, and I think that was the biggest.
I don't know for sure. I just know that the guy that won it started dead last, and he didn't take the lead till the white flag lap.
Wow, and who was that?
That Kyle Albring.
Oh, Alberding?
Yeah.
He's a wheel.
Oh, I tell you what, but you think of pavement. Hey, he comes in the corner and he's just sawing on the wheel going through the corner, and I'm going, whoa, he's looking like dirt.
Yeah.
And
man, that's awesome.
Greg Middledorf was second, and Todd Coleman was third. And this week down there, they're going to have late models, which when they say lates, I'm sure that's the crate cars they're having twin 30s, so they'll run 230 lap mains, mini stocks, baby grands, and the vintage modifieds.
That should be a hell of a show.
Vintage modifieds are pretty cool, and kids 15 and under are free this week. So that's kind of a cool thing.
Yeah, for sure.
Lip, you got anything on the result side of anything?
Well, the only thing I got is from last week's for our listener.
Our point standings.
Our point standings. It looks like Daryl Kelso's leading the running with 15 points. And then Sean Halbert's coming in second at 13, and Ronnie Cox is coming in third at 12. Scott Keeney's right behind him at 11. So it's looking like a tight race just coming out of the gate.
Wow, good stuff.
Kind of.
How many races in are we?
This is our third week.
Nice.
I haven't added up today's to let everybody know where they are today, but this is as of last week.
Yeah, baby.
We got some sad news out here too, though.
Yeah, you said we lost another flat tracker.
Another flat
did.
tracker, and I happened to catch this on Renee's.
Yeah, who was it?
Facebook. Zayden Flores, 10 years old, out of Salinas, California. He succumbed to his injuries while he was racing down at Lodi.
Boy,
I mean,
Don't like to hear that at all.
me either. That's God, 10 years old. I mean, he was just a baby.
Just a pup.
and then Billy Monger, he's a 17-year-old. He's out of the UK. Won go-kart championships over there. Has stepped up to driving the Formula 4s. He got into a really, really bad, I mean, you can look at it on YouTube. It is a very ugly crash. He ends up losing both of his legs, plus he's still fighting to stay alive. So, yeah, keep that man in your prayers. It's like I say, the wreck was he was passing cars and went to pull out to go to the outside, and there was a car stopped. Just rear-ended it full
Ouch.
speed.
Well, lastly, before we get to Lapping with Lippy, be sure you check out the Southern Oregon Carters website, the Speedway Carters. They've got their summer dirt schedule up, and I believe, let me double check that. I think it was it's the Speedway. They got some cool stuff. I gotta say, the Italian Assassin is on the show tonight, and I gotta give a big shout out to Michael Vickers, who's John. I haven't seen Vickers in forever. So thanks for showing up, guys. That's awesome.
Look at what Suchit just posted.
Wow, he's the kid that broke his femur 2 years ago in Salem. That's terrible. But also, Matt Strebe sent me some cool information. There's a guy down in the Dixon area, Redwood Acres. He's trying to get things, rolling down there. They don't have a ton of carts down there, but they're trying to work on it to get it better. So you can go to racingtheacres.com, or you can go to Redwood Acres Raceway on Facebook. And they're going to have a beginner box, box stock, intermediate, and the opens. Fart carts or caged or non-speedway carts will run together. So give them some love. Stop by. Show your interest if you so are inclined. But we got to help them out. He's trying to get things rolling down there. So thanks, Matt Strebe, for that. And then the Southern Oregon Speedway, they released their speedway cart schedule. So with that, check them out on Facebook. What else you got? Anything?
A whole lot of nothing so far.
Well, we'll be right back with Lappin' with Lippy. The three most expensive things you'll do in your life are buy a house, educate your kids, and go racing. What you don't need is another expense, and that's why you take your car and tow rigs to TruTech Automotive to ensure that they are maintained and repaired the right way with the right parts at the right price. And how's this for right? Extended to all racers is the In the Family 25% discount off of all preventative maintenance and repair labor. All you have to do is use the discount code NWRR to save. Now that's right. Get it done the right way, the TruTech way. TruTech Automotive, 6900 Northeast Highway 99, Hazeldale, Washington. 360-571-2302.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to Lappin' with Lippy, brought to you by Scott Seal Coat. For all your sealing and striping needs, get a hold of Scott Seal Coat. We can stripe it or seal it. Whatever your needs are, just give Scott Seal Coat a call and we'll make it happen. All right. Thank you very much, Terry. I feel connected now. I finally made my way on to the Spreaker site. It only took me, about 35 minutes to get there, but...
You were shaking your head, though, like you lost it again or something? Or?
No, I just finally made it there. It's just really aggravated me. But anyways, so on to my segment, and I'm kind of excited about this because, as everybody knows, I'm a club president. I'm very involved in karting. I would like to race a lot more, but I've dedicated myself to making our kart racing around here better. And I really feel that it's growing. I have a lot of response. I have a lot of new people. I have my phone rings often with people coming into it, whether they be from the speedway side or a different type of racing coming into it. It's been very good. I've been doing this since 2009 in the capacity that I am now. So back then, not so much. We struggled for people. We looked for people. We stole people. We got them into the seat and got them hooked that way. We like to call that hook, line, and sinker. But not so much. We don't have to work so hard now, and more people are coming into it. It is the cheap man's sport, I think, as far as out and out racing goes. But what really makes me excited about this is the innovation. And I think it's driven by the UAS, our open portion of kart racing. And just to step back and look at it and see how many companies are coming into it. I mean, C High Performance has been doing this way longer than I have. They are very innovative. They're always on the edge and coming up with new stuff. Snow Carbon Fiber is another one. Great people over there doing great things for karting, coming up with new and exciting stuff, trying everything to make things better. It's not, we're not stagnant. We're not staying the same. It's evolving all the time. And Judge's Performance is another one. They're making motor mounts and jack shaft assemblies and different things like that to make some of our new power plants work. Another one that just came online this week is Hager 4 Performance, with drivers and jack shaft systems that work on the new combinations or the 450 motors, or they're willing to build things for whatever you're trying to do. And that's the great part of this. It is, these people see a need and they're stepping up and they're doing it. And not all of them do this for a living. Some of them do it for a hobby, but just the fact that they're able to do it, make a little bit of money, and all of us benefit from that. They're coming up with stuff that has never been around, never been used before. We used to go out in the garage with, a hacksaw and a torch and start cutting out some of this stuff now that these guys are making for us for a reasonable fee. And I think that really, it gives you an idea of where our sport is headed, and it's a good thing. To see all these people put their blood, sweat, and tears into this stuff, they don't have to. They don't need to. They can make this stuff for themselves, put it on their cart, and then go stomp us, but they're not. They're not doing that. They're willing to give us all the same edge that they're making for themselves, which further our sport and our industry. It makes it that much better. If they were just to keep it for themselves, sure, they would be faster. Sure, they would be a lot better off than we are. But they understand that the sport needs to evolve and the class needs to evolve, and they want people to be on equal ground with them. So they're willing to do this stuff for us and come up with this stuff. Sometimes we have to help them out and dream it up and then go to them and then say, hey, look, this is what I want to do. And, they're crazy enough to try and follow through with it. And a lot of times it's working. And that is the great part of this sport. And that's why I'm so excited. I am not a big fan of clone motors. I'll just throw that out there. You know, if you've listened to the show for very long, you know I'm not a very big fan of that. But let's face it, some of the clone classes are way bigger than Rotax classes are right now. So, you know, that's a good thing. It's something that's working. People are building on it. You know, they have light, medium, heavy, sumo, and a lot of stuff in between, all with the same motor combination. The Briggs 206 is another great example. You know, that kind of stuff is all just is taking fire. It's taking off. People like it, and it's what's making our sport grow. So everybody should be really excited about this because there is a lot of new people. There is a lot of new innovation that's coming into this sport. I mean, look at Shannon Halbert, who's he's a great guy to talk to on the phone and an awesome clutch guy. But, you know, a year ago, you could call him up and get a clutch within a week. Now, the guy's totally buried. I mean, he's all the way up to his elbows, and you're going to be lucky to get your stuff back in 3 or 4 weeks. But that is a great thing. That just means that there's so many people that are in this now, and so many people that are enjoying what we enjoy, that it's making our sport grow. So just to see all the people in the edges that are stepping up, doing things that make our sport grow and being innovative. I mean, and that's what the whole UAS thing is all about. It's about out of the box thinking. And, you know, we've talked about it in the studio, not really on the show, but in the studio about the electric, you know, somebody putting together an electric cart. And now most people have seen that right here in our area, Art Pipkin is working on an electric cart. And the motor is a proven motor. It's been run on the dirt for quite a while now. It's, you know, everybody says that, well, you know, the batteries are holding us back. That's the big heavy thing. Well, with lithium and everything else out there, I'm here to tell you people it doesn't take a big battery anymore, and they live a long time. And with the superchargers on them that recharge the batteries, you know, within 20 minutes, it's really not a big deal. And this stuff is coming in, and I'm so glad to see it, to make everybody think like, whoa, really, that can be done. I mean, it's right there. And just to see all the people that are getting involved with it and making it move forward, not just with the electric cart, but the whole karting industry. It just, it's a wonderful thing, and I'm glad and excited to be a part of it. You know, it's what it should be. It's evolving all the time. It's not staying stagnant. And what it always was. I know that is a sore subject with some people because they would like it to go back to the way it was 20, 30 years ago, but that's never going to happen. Nothing is going to return to the way it was.
Well, the only sad thing, Lip, that I see with that is that I will say is, yes, it is evolved and technology is taking over, but one of the things I think karting is missing still is not so much the old days, the classes, although that would be cool, but kart shops are gone away. I mean, I can remember the feeling I had when I'd save up my pennies and I'd want to go get that new Digitron or whatever it was, you know, and that's kind of where you learned about what was going on in the industry. You know, it was really cool. Well, you have kart shops, but you don't have kart shops anymore, right? I mean, there's a few that are trying to make it and still, you know, hustling, but it's just not like it used to be. I mean, it used to be, that's where you got your info. You saved up. The smell when you walked in there, you know, the tires and the two-stroke oil on the floor and the clutch oil and stuff. It was great. But you don't have that anymore. It's gone.
No, it is, and that's it. I'm not for it. I try and support our local shops as much as I can. But it is the future. I mean, when you can sit behind your screen and get your stuff to show up in a couple days, people are going to do that. So, and you and I live next to a metropolis, so we don't even think about that. Where other people in the Midwest and back east that live, an hour and a half to 2 hours away from a big city, and maybe that big city doesn't even have a kart shop. So, it's driven there. I'm not happy about it. Kart shops aren't happy about it. But, we all try and do what we can do to keep supporting them. And I think we have talked about a series coming up that we might do.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because that's what I try to tell everybody is, it's easy to go online and it's, it might be a couple bucks cheaper, but remember, man, you're helping one of our own pay the light bill and doing that when you can just say, you know what, it's worth it to me to give it to, Terry Hager or whoever that's got a kart shop there. Kartorama, Roger there. I mean, if you can help those guys out, that's what we need to be doing, but
definitely
good stuff.
Well, I even seen that in I used to race RC cars out here off of college. And you'd have somebody come in there with parts and turn around and ask him to help him put it together. And they bought it offline.
I know, isn't that crazy?
Yeah.
And the guy says, but, he still did it, probably.
Oh, he did it, but,
Yeah, I do know what you mean. I mean, it's, where I worked, if you bought it somewhere else, I'd tell you, sorry. No, he'd help you, but it was just, it was just different back then. There was kart shops everywhere. I mean, you had but then on the other hand, it was almost the flip side of you had all these garage dealers who really weren't kart shops. They didn't have a storefront. They weren't, they were just getting come see me Tuesday from 6 to 7:30 and Thursday from, 3 to 5:30. But they got their, distributor discount and all that. And that's really why it was going on. But so there was some argument there this night, especially from where I was working at Foul Distributing. It was like, well, we got a storefront. We got all this. Why? How can they buy at the same price as I am when I've got to go to work every day and pay the building and pay the lights? And so I don't know. It was a different deal back then, but it was cool. So coming up next, the loader. The 3 most expensive things you'll do in your life are buy a house, educate your kids, racing. It's preparation. It's focus. It's attention to detail. And when you try to take shortcuts, it shows. At Speed City, Southern Oregon's karting headquarters, distributor for Ultramax, Legend, QRC, Bell Helmets, and K1 race gear, they don't roll like that. Speed City is committed to roll the way champions roll by keeping racers on track with knowledge, integrity, and performance. No shortcuts, no negativity, no other motives. You don't just have their word on it, you've got their name on it. So get back to having fun and get to calling Speed City. Speed City, LLC, keeping racers on track with quality service and friendship. 541-531-1222. And don't forget, racers, Spokane this weekend. Big regional race over there. The Idaho UAS and Strebe Speedway kicking off their season opener on Sunday. Mr. Strebe won't be there, but they did find a relief driver. I appreciate the offer, Matt, and I really do. But cool stuff.
We're tracking and packing around the Northwest with the loader, Jeff Eden. Tech, the necessary evil of racing. This last couple weeks, hanging around with the guys with the Legends cars and stuff, I've actually watched what tech is. This last week, the top 5 cars wheel in. Tires and wheels come off. You take your tires over. They measure wheels. They put them on a scale. They measure weight. I'm looking and going, weight? Oh yeah, we got guys that tried to weight their wheels to where they could get a little more coming out of the corners. Really? So they measure weight, and then they measure their tread depth and make sure where they're at on their wear bars and stuff. And I've just been watching this guy. He He's a hands-on tech guy. He wanders up, but he doesn't go up and have coffee after he techs the cars. He's wandering back and forth through. He's just casually looking, and their main focus is keep that class in check. That's the biggest thing. And like that, most places, I worked at Woodburn Drag Strip as a tech guy. Your basic thing was safety. You didn't know, there wasn't a lot of things you could do otherwise. Make sure the helmet was good, make sure the fire suit, da-da-da. That's about all you could really do. Look at them. If you didn't like the way things were put together, you could suggest it. And as I work around with the circle track and stuff now, I see a lot of, we have one tech guy trying to tech 3 and 4 classes. And I sit back and I thumb back through the rules for each class, and how does one guy do this? It seems like an impossible task, because you can do the safety part, but there's a lot of, you take a hobby stock, you can't run weight jacks. Shocks have got to be in original position. Can't stagger your A-arms. You got all this stuff. Do you look at this stuff? Modifies body height, body length, body width, no aluminum shocks and mounts, and the list goes on. Do you really have time to look at it?
Well, I think it's one of those things where a lot of the times, I think for the most part, 98, 99%, I mean, they aren't cheaters, right? So it's a given they probably, they can't check everything, but every week you go, yeah, I mean, that's just kind of the risk you have to take, especially if you were going to go tech. I mean, technically, no pun intended, you should have to tech everything in the rule book, right? I mean, if you really want to get serious about it, but who's going to do that? I mean,
no, but there needs, in my opinion, to keep everybody on their toes, to keep everything fair, there has to be a way to, this is what it is this week. Boom, everybody's got to go through it. Not just the top 3 that come in off the track. Everybody gets that one.
Yeah, and I don't think it's a lot of them that are, you get lazy when there's no tech, right?
Well, exactly.
You get used to it. And I think Suchich did that in Salem, where he said, I'm not going to tell you what we're doing, or I'll tell you, here's what we're doing, and here's what we're checking. So make sure you're right, because we will be checking it. And a lot of people didn't like it, but I think that was more or less...
and like in the hangover race, where you're running our fuel, that I loved that part.
Yeah.
Lippy didn't. He was still hungover.
God, well, and it messed my cart up, too. That thing was running blistering fast, and put that jet in there, and the thing wouldn't even go.
And then he tore the right front off of it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Jeez. 8 miles of tow out.
But the thing of it, you're bad.
Well, it was bad.
The thing of it is and then like then say you go to the next class, you got the sprint cars. What do you tech on a sprint car? It takes a sprint car guy to know what's wrong with a sprint car, unless you can you got that rules in your hand. And I started looking through the difference. I mean, there's a lot of rules. Then you turn around and you go into the motor packages of the deal, and it's like, oh my gosh, what do you now we're you got an open motor and a modified, and then we can run this you can run a crate motor. Well, now we can run a crate motor, just not IMCA sealed. Now you can run one that's comes from with Chevrolet seals in it. But yet, when I was at South Sound the other day talking with the gentleman, right on the side of his car says crate motor by Cope Brothers. How do you know they were in it? And that was the gist of the whole deal, was you weren't supposed to be able to get in and rebuild these things and add stuff to them. And he told me that I let him massage it.
It's going on everywhere. I mean, I can't say everybody's doing it, but and you bring up another great point when you said, how does one guy do that? And it's kind of on the same line where I've said this all along. They have drivers meetings and they go over stuff, and it's usually, blah, 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 blah. Unless it's something, really important. It's just kind of the same old, rigmarole. But really, I don't think people understand how important not only tech people, but corner workers and stuff are, and they get very little training. There's no rule book for them. I mean, they're out there working the corner for spinouts and stuff, but really, if it came down to it, what if they had to make a call? They don't know whether it's tech or whether the rule book, right? So, I mean, do you honestly know what you're looking for there if you were really on the spot?
Well, if you take like the corner workers down at Grays Harbor, they're fire people. They don't really have.
Yeah, I know that.
That's. I mean, and I see where you're at is more like in the karting deal where you're trying to help call the corners.
Well, sometimes you get asked to. Somebody misses it or whatever, but
at the usually you got enough eyes at the big track. It seems like you don't always make the call, but there's usually the race director is the one that does that, so it falls on his shoulders one way or the other.
Right. I see. That's a great. I mean, that's really pretty interesting because tech isn't something we talk a whole lot about. I mean, it's unless something like the Predator stuff there for a while was getting a little bit out of hand, but
that and that's the whole thing is, do we need more tech? So some of these a lot of guys are gonna say no, but to maintain. If you want to maintain like what the Legends playing field is, yes. I mean, you can take them cars and throw a blanket over them. You can see who the drivers that have the experience are.
Mm-hmm.
They know how far they can put their car in the corner. They don't have to cheat.
Right.
So that's just kind of
no. It was a great. I noticed. I remember 2012. I think it was at Tri-Cities. Big Grand National there, and it had a black cloud over it because of the tech issue. I mean, guys coming up saying, "Hey, here's my stuff. If I run this, am I going to be disqualified?" And it gets looked at, and they say, "Nope, you're fine. Are you sure? Because I brought my stuff. I'll fix it. All right. Nope, you're good. Go out and run." And what happens? They get into the barn, and they say, "No, we can't." Well, I came up. Sorry, but can't allow it. So. Even after he asked, had him look at it, they said, nah. So, and told him, okay. But, so it was a big black cloud of the tech thing. So it can be ugly, but it doesn't have to be. I mean,
no, everybody makes the tech guy out as the mean
bad guy, but he's not doing anything.
No, he's just the sheriff.
Yep, he's just the enforcer.
And
here we go.
Woohoo! I'm excited.
Your favorite drivers and people of interest in the motorsports world. It's time for In the Seat, powered by Blue Line Graphics. Sometimes I hate Android phones. It just drives me crazy.
Did you hang up on him?
No, it's got the little round thing that you got to slide it, and my dumb finger wouldn't slide on it, so I'll call him back. Tick me off. Oh, there we go. And there he is, the man, Mr. Ronnie Swyers. What's going on, buddy?
Hey, guys. How you doing?
Good. Before you get started, let's see here.
I could almost talk about every single subject you guys have talked about tonight on the show. There's been so many really cool things about tech and yeah. Sorry to interrupt. Go ahead.
No, I'm going to play your intro so you can get ready. So. You got to just follow in right at the end of it. Here's Product 41's Ronnie Swyers with your driving tip of the week. You're on.
Hey, guys. This is Ronnie. Down here in Salt Lake City, working off-site this week, and I've got a little tip for you guys. I'm very fortunate to work with so many really great driving coaches and instructors from all over the country that have so much experience. Guys running World Challenge, guys running 24 Hours Le Mans every year. So I try to pick up on things they talk about, so I have some good information to bring you guys. And one of our instructors yesterday was talking about to our group of students about a quote that Mario Andretti talked about. And it really applies probably in the karting world more to the lower horsepower, LO206, stuff like that, where what he always says is the rules of one. We want to go to the brakes one time. We want to turn the steering wheel one time. And we want to go to the gas pedal one time. So with all that being said, the driver needs to do as little as possible to try and fix any mistakes he makes. So, there's so many little things I could expand on that. And I know these guys with the UAS carts, some of these things just don't apply because they're doing so much with the throttle and so much with the steering wheel to try and correct and manipulate the cart. But these lower horsepower carts.
Well, let me interrupt you for a second.
Carts. Sure.
Would it help them, though, if they could cut down on those mistakes?
Well, I don't know. It would be so hard to say if they're actually mistakes.
Right.
Because so much is, I have no experience in those types of carts. Anything that the sprint carts that have to flick the car to the corner and manipulate the car and control the car with the throttle sideways. But watching, I spend the being down there at Salem and watching everything from the flat carts to the cage carts and the micro sprints, and watching the driver's hands and listening, especially in practice, when I have an opportunity to really listen to the driver's throttle application and be up close and watch his hands. It's really, I try to identify if there's something that could be helped. So I try to break all those things apart individually. And so much of that stuff is car setup,
right,
and chassis setup.
With the rules of one, give us an example of what would be and what shouldn't be, if you can.
Sure. A driver comes into a brake zone and he misjudges his brake point, so he may be late. Or let's say, for instance, he's early. He's on the brake pedal early, realize he's too soon. He comes off the brake pedal and then back onto the brake pedal. So the brake pedal is inconsistent. Brake pressure is inconsistent. That means the chassis is inconsistent. Let's go to the next segment of the corner where the driver goes to turn in. He misses his turn-in point. He's not looking in the right position. He misses his apex and has to make a correction with the wheel. And I'm not talking about a minor adjustment when I always refer to driving a car or a cart in that 98 to 102% of grip level. You're right on the knife edge all the time. And you're making small corrections with the steering wheel, keeping it on that knife edge. I'm referring to a driver that makes a turn in and then has to make a big correction.
Like a dump truck.
Yeah, and he's in it, and then his exit speed is gonna suffer. And then his his apex speed is much lower now because he had to make that correction. Now let's move to the next segment of the corner on the exit. He gets anxious, goes to power too early. He either exceeds the grip of the back of the cart or the car and oversteers. He's making a correction. Now, if it's a slide oversteer, it's very fast. There's a certain amount of slip angle there that's extremely quick. If he goes too hard, the car oversteers. Now you've got a correction. Now you have to lift. Exit speed suffers. So those are some examples that can happen on exit. Or he goes to power too quickly, and this is probably more prevalent in, my shifter cart's the same way, and I see it with cars all the time. Guys go to the throttle too quickly. If the rear of the car or cart has a lot of grip, all of a sudden the front has no grip and they have an understeer. Then you have to back out of it. Again, exit speed suffers.
So what should they do? I mean, you say rules of one, so you're on the gas one time, you're lifting one time, you're on the brake one time, you're on the gas one time. Don't try to correct those mistakes. Well, if you don't try to correct them, it's going to be bye-bye, right?
Well,
especially coming off.
Yeah, you have to make the correction, and there's no perfect lap, and that's the thing. And people say, I just ran the perfect lap. Okay, well, if you ran a perfect lap, then you're just not going to go try anymore. Well, every racer tries. Every time there's a lap record set where a driver gets his best lap, he always tries more. They try to minimize those mistakes. So really the rules of one is constant brake pressure, one time, nice smooth release. Eyes up, on the apex, nice turn in, you hit the apex, eyes on exit, hit the exit, one turn in, one unwind of the wheel, one time to gas. The driver has to minimize as few things as he has to do in corrections. Every time there's a correction, there's a speed loss. A major correction.
Wow.
Keeping it on that knife edge, there's lots of little corrections, and that's extremely fast. We're talking about major corrections where they have to lift or go to the brake or correct a major oversteer or lift because they did something that created the major understeer. Now, some of that could be chassis induced, improper car setup, and the driver's just doing everything he can to drive around a problem. I get it. But if it's a driver making the mistake because he's impatient, and I commonly say this all the time, and I said it today in the class, I said it yesterday in the class that as I rotated through doing our morning classes and our afternoon classes here, the problem with racers, and I'm guilty, is once our helmet goes on, our IQ points drop and our patience go away. And so we start making mistakes that we wouldn't commonly make, especially in the heat of the battle.
Mm-hmm.
So it's mental preparation and the driver preparing himself in the setup. There's just so many pieces to it. But
well, let me ask you: you're heading into your corner entry. You're coming in, and you get on there, and you go, "Oh man!" You're on the brake, and you're like, oh, "I'm too early. I'm too early." Okay, so with that rule of one, should you go ahead and say, "Well, crap, I'm already too early. My pedal is there, and my pressure is constant." Should you just go ahead and ride that out and then
release early and roll it in? More commonly, the mistake is, and more commonly than an early break, because early break typically comes from inexperienced racers, new track, getting used to new track or something like that.
It's usually too deep, right?
But more commonly, it's too deep. And it goes back to, I think, our conversation we had last week about constant brake pressure, consistent brake point, and start releasing the pedal sooner. Okay. But if you go too deep, now you've got a whole nother set of problems. So now you're going to be probably fighting an oversteer and understeer situation into the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Now those rules of ones kind of go away. I think the whole crux of Mario's, when he said that, and I had heard it many, many years ago, and again, it kind of sparked it about today's, and I heard one of our guys talking to the class about it, is strictly being smooth, bottom line. And that's why I said this really reverts back to pavement and carts with lower horsepower where you have to be baby butt smooth. And I'm not saying guys in the high horsepower stuff aren't smooth, because they are. They're just dancing on that knife edge. Their hands are busy. Doesn't mean they're not being a smooth driver. They're just extremely quick, and they are making micro corrections every second.
Absolutely, man. And I can remember driving my late model one night. It was super heavy. The track was super, the kind that pull your sneakers off when you walk across it.
Mm-hmm.
Almost as much grip as asphalt, right?
Right.
And I can remember thinking, wow, stuff is happening really fast right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're in, you're on, boom, you're on. I mean, you don't realize that at the time, but I mean, you're going, man, there's a million things going on all at once. And when you really think about what's going on there, it's amazing to me. And you just said it about the UAS guys, because man, that's a lot of go-kart to try to keep on a short end, with all that torque. These guys they're amazing, because I mean, there's a lot of stuff in one lap that's going on. I mean, you're thinking, okay, I got to get in, I got to get on the brake, I got to look at my point, I got to get here, I got to be smooth, I got to do, but all that's happening. I mean, I don't think we realize how instinctful and how rapidly those thoughts are occurring. It's just crazy.
Yeah. And a simple technique that we use in road racing is a heel toe downshift using free pedals with 2 feet in a synchro meshed or a gearbox, not straight cut gears. You have to use the clutch to shift and match the revs and things like that. And guys will ask me, well, how do you do it? Or how do you do that so fast? And I don't know. I just do it. It's a feel thing. And so when I watch these guys in these high, like the UAS carts down at, down in Salem, and you ask those guys how they do something, I bet every one of them's going to look at you like, well, I just figured out on the fly and get it done. It's all feel.
Right.
They're just making it happen. Things are happening so fast, and decisions you're making are not decisions you think about. They're decisions that you just act on.
They're
it's
instinct.
all by feel.
Instinct.
Absolutely.
Mm.
Absolutely. So I was thinking today, how do I apply that rule of one to guys like that? I'm like, God, I don't know how I'm going to do that. Because those guys just doing stuff so quick. So it really relates to, the oval track guys, lower horsepower carts where you're not sliding anything, and things aren't happening quite as quick. But still, their initiation into the corner, anything they do to initiate the turn to the corner, the throttle through the corner, and the unwind of the corner, I think you can still break that down into rules of one. Once I make my decision, it's done.
Right.
I'm going with it.
Yep.
I might have to pick up some pieces along the way, but my decision's made.
Mm.
And again, those are happening, at 2, 3, 4 hertz, 5 hertz is multiple times per second.
That's awesome.
So
these guys are reacting to.
Ronnie, what is your solution to that? I mean, is it a timing issue where you're counting 4, 5, 6 turn in, or should we be picking a mark on the track that we're trying to hit every time? I mean, how do you try and, with us, we're just turning left, so.
Right.
What is it that you can do to try and train yourself to make that happen? Is it best to try and pick something out? Is it best to count or what is the solution?
I say counting no, because as you count to 1, that second can be broke down to 10 pieces or 100 pieces, and if you're off a little bit, especially on a short track at high speed, it's done.
Yeah.
You've already missed it. So people say, well, you pick a mark. Well, you obviously want to pick something that you're looking at or around that's not going to move. Mm-hmm. Cones are not good. And so I always try to find something, when I was working, this year with Kyle Keenan, and he was struggling through, I think, turn 3 and 4 there at Salem. And I said, the first thing I said, well, where are you looking? He goes, well, I'm just kind of looking, that over there, that cone or something on the wall or whatever. I said, that plywood down the side of the wall, I want you to start looking 3 more pieces down. Pick a sign. I want your eyes farther down on an exit. And on an entry, you might not want to be looking at the cone that's down there on the edge of the track. You might want to be looking at something on the wall, like over where we had the transponder type stuff placed. Somewhere a little further out to see if that's going to fix any issues you have. But don't get stuck on just trying to look at one spot and go, well, that's where I should be looking and it's not working. Or I'm looking there and it's working fine. Okay, we'll try something different.
Gotcha.
See if it works. And it's a training thing, because we get into a habit. If you're running laps and you're out in the lead, sometimes you're just automatic. You just do it. You don't even think about it.
Yeah, my problem is I see something, we'll say a bump in the middle of turn 3 and 4. So I know that it's there. So as I'm coming down, I'm looking for it, and inevitably I end up hitting it because I'm looking for it. So then I have to spend 3 more laps trying to train myself not to look at it anymore, to look at something else. So it's double-edged sword, I guess.
You could kind of, couldn't you? You could. I would imagine. I mean, you could to a point, but couldn't you listen to the motor too, and just the sing of it, and maybe a pitch of it that you could, when you get about here, you're,
Terry, I think there's lots of things that drivers use as identifiers to help relate themselves to where they are on a track.
Definitely.
Whether it might be a rev limiter, or a pitch, or even a bump. It could be anything that is something that is consistent, that is repeated over and over and over, that you're going to use as a tool to identify at this point, when the motor does this, when I hear this sound, I know that I'm going to be about this area. And so I think there's a lot of things that drivers use.
You don't ever say to the guys, drive it in until you smell poo-poo and hear glass break, do you?
No.
Okay.
No, because it's probably coming from me, and that ain't good if I'm sitting in the right seat of the car. So if we get that far, yeah, we've got some issues. That's one of the problems with riding the right seat with some of these guys sometimes is we got to make sure that whatever we ate for lunch is
stays where it is.
It's going to stay in there for a while. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. That was the one of the sayings at the shop. Was it's like, well, how do I set up? I don't know. Put 2 fingers of bite in it and go run the living, what out of it. And
right.
and that was and there's some truth to that. I mean, one of the best nights I ever ran was the night I forgot my toolbox.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no
run
joke.
With your brung, literally run with your brung.
Stuck, But what you're saying is just like a tire pressure gauge, right? You could have 2 of them, and yours say it's off. But if you're using the same gauge every time,
doesn't matter.
Doesn't matter.
No, it doesn't matter at all. It's just relevant to what. I mean, it's exactly right. It's funny because I've always said along those same notes. You look at all these big teams, whether it's sprint cars, cup cars, Indy cars. These guys come in with the haulers and all this fancy stuff, but you could roll in on a 1972 Ford pickup and a open trailer and a good flat pad. All the rest of it's just a show.
Yep.
Right?
Ask Stefanova. That's what he does.
You have just and sometimes I think guys. I know for me personally, when I was running SCUSA back in the early 2000s, the West Coast Pro Moto Tour and some the big pro races that, man, I think there's races I probably dialed myself right out more than I was dialing myself right in.
Been there, done that.
Just getting freaked out, yeah.
Yeah, you go, wow, look at all these guys. All these guys are doing this, they're running that, look at that, and everything. And next thing you know, you're just doing something different than what you normally would do.
Well, how true is it when you say? I mean, I know I used to. It's like everybody says, "Geez, man, I'm a half the second off." That doesn't matter. What the focus needs to be is, okay, yeah, you're 5/10 or whatever, but what you got to do is go out and, hey, what's it going to take for Ronnie Swyers to get 2/10 quicker, and then another 10th or 3/10 quicker, and don't worry about trying to get all that half a second, because that's I think that's how you dial yourself right out. But
break it down, because when you're looking at big chunks of time like that, typically, I in my opinion, you're looking for big swings on the chassis setup, and that big swing could take you a half a second the other direction.
Yep.
So minor changes, like we always say, change one thing at a time.
Amen.
See how it affects things, and then go from improvement. Then that really comes down to, as well as having a driver that is extremely consistent.
Yeah.
Drivers that are inconsistent, we need to keep working on the driver. Drivers that are really consistent can see that one little change, the 1/4 inch change or the 1/8 inch change of track width in the back, or
that's what I say, because I used to say all the time. Number one, like, remember the Gold Cups? I don't know how many of those you ran, but
just a couple.
I used to watch those guys, and I go, geez Louise. I mean, they're flat. I mean, it's Friday afternoon, right? They don't even race till Saturday afternoon, and they're wearing their stuff out, right? They're going out and out, and they're chasing this thing like they got to get a track record. Well, qualifying isn't until tomorrow, and it's going to be in the morning, and you're practicing at 2, 3, 4 o'clock, and you're out there working like a dog, and none of it matters. Right. It's all going to be different tomorrow. It's like, what are you doing?
Right.
You're 3/10 off. That's not a lot. I mean, that's a lot, but that's not a lot. 3/10 is a couple of little mistakes. So
it's one thing if a driver or a team is actually properly testing and making changes and documenting the results. It's another thing when a team's just, my God, we're off 3/10. We got to do something to try and find 3/10, because that goes back to what you're saying. Is like, what's it matter? The guy that's 3/10 quicker than you tomorrow at 4 o'clock might be 3/10 slower.
Exactly.
Totally different day. So it really comes down to, are you testing to document information for knowledge for future, or are you just chasing the stopwatch at the moment?
Well, let me ask you this, because this is one that I would like to hear your opinion on, is You come in and you make a change. You don't like it, and you go back out. Some guys go out there and they'll make a change and they'll go out there for 10, 15 laps, and I'm like, what is that proving? I mean, after when you make a change, I mean, I just think my opinion is you should go out there and in 2 or 3 laps, if it's not quicker, then it's not the right way. All you're doing by going 15 laps is just adapting to the car or
wearing
whatever.
stuff out, wearing the driver out, wearing the tires out, changing the equation is what you're doing.
Right.
I think most drivers I've worked with, from formula cars to road racing, sports cars to go-karts, and even myself in karting, and watching drivers back in the day, like, local boy Jason LaPointe,
Stud.
And some of those guys, they make a change and go out. They're out and in. They recognize it within that lap, and they're right there, and no, it didn't work.
Well, the watch don't lie. The watch is going to tell you. That's the
those guys are good enough. They don't need a stopwatch. They go, yeah, the change in the cart, I could feel. I know it's going to be better. And nope, it wasn't it. We got to go somewhere else. And once they start to feel a change, it's like, yeah, I think it's going to be better. Let's go do 3 laps and see what the clock says.
Mm.
But if they don't feel it's right, they're right back in.
But
right back in.
There must be really good, because I've had those nights where you come in, you go, man, this thing is so sweet. It is. You're 4/10 off. That lap sucked. Really, it felt awesome.
Right.
I mean, it's like, holy cow. So.
Right, and I'm sure most of these racers, and all the oval stuff is the same way. These guys are tuned into the kart enough. They're going to know if a chassis change worked within a lap or 2 immediately.
That's a fact. It's all just training your ear, or however you do it, training your, back in the day, I mean, dude, it was crazy. If I'd come out, I mean, you just know. You come out, make an adjustment, you go out and you go, man, it's over. What do you mean? Well, if we don't break, it's over. Just the way the clutch hooked up, just the way it looked. I mean, you just knew it was over. And it's great. But I think you said it best, a couple weeks ago. You just got to pick a routine and do it every time, right? Like, what is it? Start, finish line, entry, middle, exit, whatever, however you break it down. But it has to be that way every time, right? Because if you start jumping around.
Right. Yep. Have a consistent, have things you do the same way. It's the same way every time.
Yeah.
Be consistent about your testing and practice. It's really funny, Tara. I was kind of a funny story back when I first got into go-karting. I retired from cars and I was looking, I started the family. I'm like, I want to do something different. And I started racing some wave runners for a while. And, it didn't really have a proper steering wheel and, 4 tires. And so I found this shifter cart. I'm like, I'm going to go play with these. These look fun. Bought a 125 shifter cart, and I was out at Pat's Acres running around. And I thought I was going so fast because as the day got on and on, it was hot. I could hold the throttle so much deeper going into turn 1 before I had to lift to roll through. And my buddy's there at the stopwatch, and I'm like, God, you see how deep I'm going into 1? I'm just flying in there. He's like, yeah, but you're going slower. I'm like, there's no way. There's no way. I mean, the cart's hooked up. And then I found out that 2-strokes, you actually had to change jets and jet the motor and all that stuff. I had no idea. Literally, that's how oblivious I was to the motors. It's like, what? You just put a big jet? I didn't know. So then that became a whole nother, that was when we first started. And then by the end of my karting, where I was running the tour and stuff, there was not a time we didn't come off track. We weren't changing a jet or a needle or a clip. And we had the race airs, we're taking air samples and jetting to that. I mean, there's just,
I know it gets amazing. To be where you're splitting hairs, but it's like,
but you need to do that because
do.
It's all about consistency.
Mm-hmm.
If you're making all these changes, but you're not making changes to the engine to keep it in its sweet spot, you might be making all kinds of great chassis changes and it's handling better. But if the engine's not performing, it's going to be slower.
It was like Saturday. I was down talking to Fat. We were in the shop, and talking about 2-strokes and looking at carburetors. And he was trying to get one on a Rotax Super 100, and it wasn't going to fit. And he was trying to get different carburetors and stuff, And so I started asking him. And I said, "God, what about this? Oh no, you can't do this upside down. The pumper won't, But he said, he said something, and I go, wow, it's crazy. You think about a piston and ring, how they used to say, yeah, we need to touch hone it, put a new ring in it, and all that. And I never even thought twice about it, so I started thinking about it Saturday, and I go, God, you know what? A piston and ring is crucial on a pumper-style carburetor because as the ring wears, as that blow-by and stuff gets worse, the pump don't work it won't work the same. So as the engine wears, your carburation, you've got to make an adjustment because the pumper isn't pumping as hard as it was when it was fresh and tight. And I don't know if that makes any difference, but I mean, it sure seemed like it would to me.
Yeah, it can make a difference on an extreme side, and I'll give you a prime example of that. A couple of months ago, we're getting Kyle's cart put together so he can run the OS2 championship this year. And we couldn't get that thing started. I mean, he said, last year it started fine and no problem. And we're trying to start it. I'm like, we're in first gear on a 125 shifter cart, and I can take the rear axle and just spin it by hand. I'm like, we have a compression issue. There's a major compression issue here, which means we're not getting, because the only way I could get the thing to start was to literally take off the air cleaner and pour fuel in the carburetor, and then it would fire up and run, but it would never restart after that. So we had, just what you're saying, we had a fuel issue, and that's exactly what it was. Pulled the spark plug, peeked down the cylinder, whole top half the piston was missing, and you could see the ring. I mean, it was terrible. There was no compression. And so just exactly what you're saying. That's, obviously an extreme measure.
Right. But, I don't think most people put two and two together with that, right? Because really as that wears, you're going to have to be adjusting accordingly. But, boy, I don't know. It's always...
Well, it certainly could, because those carburetors can be very finicky. We went to the pump around systems on those carburetors, and then Rainey down at Sweet Tech, which was our engine builder back in the day, he's got this gravity feed thing, and, I don't know much about that stuff anymore,
yeah,
but
me
those
either.
carburetors are very sensitive. So...
Been
there, done that.
Well, Ronnie, you know what, man? I got to say, and even Lippy, you heard him cheer, because I know he looks forward every week to your tips. So
absolutely,
we enjoy the conversation. We enjoy because it's something that it's relative and it's important.
Makes us think every week.
Yeah, and I'm trying to come up with creative things that's going to cross over to all karters and cars, because as you guys know, I primarily am big car stuff and a lot of coaching there, but I have a lot of go-karting experience too, and a lot of that stuff crosses over. So I'm trying to come up with some creative things for the people listening that again, if it doesn't apply to them, if, like you guys just said, if it will get them thinking about something outside the box they've never thought about, I've accomplished something.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
You definitely have. And it's all, it's all relative. It does all cross over, right? The principle's the same. So you just kind of got to apply it where necessary. But we expect you to be 100% right every time you call here.
Yeah, like I always tell people, I might not know the answer, but I'll try to make it. I'll sure try to make it believable to you.
That's right. I'll sure lie to you.
That's the problem, is everybody listening is experienced people. I can't baffle them like that, If it's a student that doesn't really know much and they're learning, it's like they're going to believe anything I say. I'm always a hero. Some of these people are like, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about.
Well, you know what? That shows up. It's pretty obvious, though, when you don't. It's pretty hard to hide that.
Right.
It's like, are you kidding me? Are you insulting me right now, or what is it? Well, Ronnie, thanks, man. We're a little bit over. I hope everybody enjoyed. I know they did. Hopefully.
Yeah, I wish you had the time to talk about Wenatchee. I actually went up there and made a quick visit, but maybe next week we can throw some of that stuff in there. I didn't get to do a lot of stuff up there, but yeah, it was kind of neat to see.
Yeah, maybe you can throw it in the recording if you're going to be home. Just throw it in on the end. Hey, by the way. I drove it in until I smelled poo-poo and heard glass breaking. Yes, it does not work. Well, right on, man.
All right, guys.
Thanks, Ronnie.
You bet, guys. See everybody later. Take
okay.
Care. All right, bye.
Here's Product 41's. Oops. Sorry about that, guys. Well, that's going to do it. Oh, Jeff. Oh, yeah. Hey, before we go really quick, because Jeff's got his quick tip of the week, I wanted to say, I told Lippy this yesterday. I'm driving on the freeway. I'm getting on the on-ramp. By the end of the on-ramp, I'm not at speed yet, And I'm thinking to myself, being selfish actually hurts you more than it does the other person. And it all takes everybody, right? So the guy in the slow lane has to remember, oh, yeah, the guy's merging on, I need to get over. The guy in the middle lane needs to go, oh, yeah, he needs to get over so that guy can get on. If everybody would just do one iota little bit more and not think of themselves, but think of the other person, imagine what our freeways would be like. It would just be the freeways, just getting on, getting on. People don't know how to merge. So don't be selfish, because it really hurts you in the long run. And that's going to be my positive quote of the day. And Jeffrey, you are on.
Well, kind of doing a little bit different here. I was looking at Anne Marie's stuff today, and she's got free gifts for joining her deal. And one's a free weekly, she calls it a Z-Zine, which subscription, which comes across your internet with tips and videos. That's every week. And then you get a free download for building your marketing presentations. Guys, she has got it going. And
she does have it going.
And next week I'm going to give you the 5 tips to what you usually keep yourself from getting a sponsor.
Marketing at fullspeed.com. Anna Marie Strahan. She's awesome. Lip.
So this week we're finishing up with Brent Meyer and Daniel Watkins, both tied for number 1 at 19 points. Daryl Kelso coming in third with 18 points, followed by Ronnie Cox with 16 points. So it is a tight battle. So be sure and check in next week and see if you can get in the top 10.
Thanks for reminding me. Daryl Kelso, that was an outstanding gesture on your part. Thanks for the donation for the support of the Northwest Race Report. Greatly appreciated. And really, it's the thought that counts. So it moved me. It was cool. So thank you so much for that.
Kevin Bridges had something to say. It's drivers make mistakes when they get tired. Fitness is huge, mental and physical. And that's word right there.
That is word. Be sure you guys check out Northwest Kart Day. Take out some cool stuff. They're on the pavement side. StrepFest Promotions is on the dirt side. Strebe Speedway this weekend on Sunday, season opener. Spokane, the big regional race there. I think it's a quarter point race, too, over there. Is
yes,
it not?
I believe it is for the Idaho group.
Yeah, big stuff. Look for Tim Lawrence to be tough over there. And Ronnie Cox, the Rocket. He's going to be looking for some revenge from that Cycle Land mishap. But anyway, looking forward to seeing what happens and all that stuff next week. So
Jeremy Brown in the house.
Yeah, Jeremy Brown, right? Oh, man. Kyler Culver. Kyle Keenan. Jeez Louise.
We got a full house.
Out of sight, out of mind, Kyle Keenan.
The Italian
Assassin. Chris Passanante, good to have you back. Michael Vickers, thank you for your service. You're the man. We love you. If you're on the bottom, please just try the outside. You'll get them just by surprise, I promise. We love you. See you next week.